In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was without shape and empty, and darkness was over the surface of the watery deep, but the Spirit of God was moving over the surface of the water. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. God said the light was good, so God separated the light from the darkness. God called the light day and the darkness night, and there was evening and there was morning, marking the first day. God said, "Let there be an expanse in the midst of the waters, and let it separate water from water." So God made the expanse and separated water under the expanse of the water above it, and it was so. God called the expanse sky, and there was evening and there was morning, a second day. God said, "Let the water under the sky be gathered in one place, and let dry ground appear," and it was so. God called the dry ground land, and the gathered waters he called seas. God saw that it was good. God said, "Let the land produce vegetation, plants yielding seeds according to its kind, trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds," and it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants yielding seeds according to their kinds, and trees bearing fruit with seed in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning, a third day. God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the sky to separate the day from the night, and let them be signs to indicate seasons and days and years, and let them serve as lights in the expanse of the sky to give light on the earth," and it was so. God made two great lights. The greater light to rule over the day and the lesser light to rule over the night. He made the stars also. God placed the lights in the expanse of the sky to shine on the earth, to preside over day and night, and to separate light from darkness. God saw that it was good, and there was evening and there was morning, a fourth day. God said, "Let the water swarm with swarms of living creatures, and let birds fly above the earth across the expanse of the sky." God created the great sea creatures and every living and moving things, but the water swarmed according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind, and God said that it was good. God blessed them and said, "Be fruitful and multiply, and fill the water in the seas, and let the birds multiply on the earth." And there was evening and there was morning, a fifth day. God said, "Let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, cattle and creeping things and wild animals, each according to its kind," and it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, and the cattle according to their kinds, and all the creatures that creep along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And then God said, "Let us make humankind in our image, after our likeness, so they may rule over the fish of the sea and the birds of the air and over the cattle and all the earth, over all the creatures that move on the earth." God created humankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. This is the last week of our conversation called Image, where we are struck and moved by the fact that God, as he created the universe, took the moment and time and entrusted us with the responsibility and also the gift of the imprint and branding of his image in our souls. That the God who created the universes, and I love that verse, and he made the stars also. He just made stars. Oh, that's in addition. That was extra. That he crafted you and me, humankind, and coined us with an image deep inside our soul. That you and me, as you sit in this room, at the very depths of who you are, in that voice that you can barely hear in your own heart and in your own soul, that God lives there. That he exists in your being and in the places in which you and I experience each other, but he exists in the depths of who you are, that is only moved or shaken or caused to live in certain moments. That if you're here tonight and you're on a search for God, then that worship experience might have been a weird moment for you. Because there was probably moments where you go, "I wonder what all these people are doing," but deep inside you felt the presence of God in this room. You've had moments in your life as you've searched for God that it's called you into something deeper and more meaningful because God is there. But there's something interesting about the way that God made you and me, about the way God made humankind. There's a verse in there that carries a couple words I want us to focus on and take a look at. It says, "Let us make man in our image." Now, I don't know if you know anyone who speaks about themselves in the third person, but isn't it really annoying when that person goes, "Hey, so Hank was at the store the other day, okay? I'm going to tell you a quick story." That person's own personal sense of their own awesome makes me think they're less awesome. Do you know what I mean? As soon as I hear them refer to themselves in the third person, I just check out going, "I stopped caring the minute you open your mouth," you know? But this is not God speaking about himself in the third person. This is God speaking about himself, or the language describing God in the only way that our languages on the planet are capable of containing who God is. That these words describing God as us and our, and then the words him being a plural him, is the only way we could contain actually the facets of God. That God is both Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, all three. That he's the Spirit hovering over the waters of the deep, and he's God who says, let there be light, and he's the man, Jesus, the Son, Jesus, who steps into human history to be a sacrifice for sin so that you and I could have life. That he's Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, and that's a really complex concept. That's like an amazing, complex thing that's also so beautiful and so simple and unique to God. And I figured we could talk about that for a really long time because there's lots of questions around that. But I've decided that we're going to wait for 3 weeks when Erwin starts his series on spirit. So if you have any hard questions about that, just save them for 3 weeks. We're going to let Erwin handle those, okay? On April 24th, Erwin's going to start a series called Spirit, where he's going to deal with your spirit and my spirit and dig into this a little bit more. But for our conversation tonight, I want to look at 2 words that are in here that are really, really important. The first one, and these are words that you should probably write down or know for the future, is Elohim, which is translated God. Everybody say Elohim. Elohim, the breakdown of this word is that this word is used thousands of times in the scriptures and is a plural word for God. Now, we have words that are like singular words and also plural words in English. So it's like there's a field of elk or a field of deer, and there's also a deer or an elk, right? I'm not really sure why that extra N is there for the elk, but we'll figure that out later. I'm sure someone will email me that now. But Elohim is a word that only exists and is only used to describe the God the Father, the God the Son, and the God Holy Spirit. It's only used to describe him, and it is a plural word. That you can't come up with a word in any language that describes this God as singular. It's not even used to describe gods, like gods that are carved. I was at the San Francisco airport with Erwin a couple weeks ago, and as you're walking through the terminal, there's all these gods that were Egyptian gods that were carved, and that has a description next to them, and they're kind of crazy. I mean, they're only about this big, but there's all this description of how people worship this God and what it represented and all that kind of stuff. But that God, I mean, he must be really powerful to end up in the terminal at SFO. But what's amazing about that is you wouldn't describe that God as Elohim. That word is used to only describe the God that is plural. And then there's another word that it continues, and it's Adonai. Everyone say Adonai. Adonai means Lord. And again, used hundreds of times in the New Testament, and is a plural word. A word that describes who God is cannot be contained as an individual or singular. And then in the scriptures it says, let's make man in our own image, using the word ish. Everybody say ish. And that is a plural word. See, God is the only God, and he's plural. But then when it says that he created man, it is describing us, it's describing human beings as a multiple, as a people group, as a plural together. Whereas God is contained in himself as 3, you and I were actually created as us and we and our. Let us make man plural. It would be really well to describe it as they made them in their image. It's a plural experience that in your soul and in my soul, imprinted on our soul is a plurality. Imprinted on our soul is multiple. Imprinted on your soul and my soul is that you and I actually exist in connection and in relation to other human beings. We are not individuals. We are not selective. We are not isolated humans. Deep inside, we have the need and the desire to connect to other people. Have you ever had a time in your life where you were lonely, on a search for your tribe? I know I have. I've had multiple times in my life where I've just felt like, who do I belong to? What community do I belong to? What team do I belong to? What tribe am I a part of? And I've just been on a search for that. I've also had moments in my life where I just felt like I was completely isolated. It's not even like I had people to choose from, like, oh, I don't think I belong to these people. I just felt like I had no one. But I want you to know, if that's you tonight, that if you're on a search and you have that echoing voice in your head or the deafening sound of loneliness in your soul, that your search for people and your search for community is a divine search in your life. It's the holy search of the voice inside your whole soul that says, you were made for community. You were made for koinonia. You were made for fellowship. You were made for interdependence. You were made for togetherness. That doesn't mean you're needy, although you might be needy as well. That's just a separate thing. It means that you're actually listening to the voice inside your soul that says you were made for other people. You're not an isolated person. Anybody here ever frustrated with technology? Just by a show of hands, you're frustrated with technology. I'm not the kind of person that goes, man, technology's so confusing, it's so frustrating. I think technology moves at such a molasses speed in this world, it's unbelievable. I find it embarrassing that decades ago we can make a cartoon about the Jetsons in the year 2000 having flying cars and living in space, and we haven't gotten there yet. I don't have a flying car, how about you? You know how stupid it is that we can send a man to the moon and we can't cure cancer? You know how slow technology moves? It's unbelievable how just molasses speed it is, that 1,000 years ago, we were living in a time and place in the world where it was very primitive. You would think that 1,000 years of technology later, and we would have figured out this teleporting thing, don't you think? I mean, doesn't it make sense that we would have found another planet or had the ability to have a person in space for like decades at a time, or that we could have colonized the moon or one of the moons of Saturn? I mean, it's just moving so unbelievable. How is it possible that they could dream it up for a cartoon and we can't get there yet? We're just now figuring out how to get cars that drive themselves. But I saw that in Minority Report like 8 years ago, okay? It's just so slow. I mean, it is kind of ridiculous that we have like stick shift cars, or that we have cars that you actually physically have to drive, or your car can't tell that you've been drinking and power itself down. I just don't understand how unbelievably, or how stupid it is that we still have microwaves in people's houses. There are people who live on microwaves. It heats up and rubs the atoms against each other, and then we have people that have cancer, and we wonder what's happening. It blows my mind that there's like, technology moves so slow, something that we designed in the 70s sits in everybody's home. But the biggest technology companies in the world today are focused on all their energy on what seems to be a singular thing that I keep hearing over and over and over again. Things like Facebook and Twitter and apps and Apple, they seem to be focused on how to connect human beings to each other. For some reason, it's as if the smartest people or the broadest conversation has taken its eye off the ball, and we're just trying to figure out how to connect people in desperate places to the resources of other people using technology. We're trying to connect people to their families. We're trying to connect people to their friends. We're trying to connect people to different people in different continents. See, our souls have found a way to use technology to create what it's really, really longing for. This desperate sense. And if that wasn't the case, if we didn't have that desperate need, I bet we'd have a flying car by now. I just know it. We wouldn't have wasted so much time on Mark Zuckerberg or Twitter, right? Because we would have just gone, who cares if I connect to other human beings? I want a car that flies. This is my goal. But instead, we have this desperate need deep inside ourselves to connect to other human beings, to be in community. See, God imprinted you and he imprinted me, and it's in our souls to be connected in community. But it doesn't always work out that way. First, have you ever told somebody something and you thought you guys were really, really clear, and then you ended up in like opposite places? You ever have that happen? How many people, you're a fan of the ArcLight, just by show of hands? Yeah, okay, the ArcLight. The rest of you guys, you should get out more, okay? I love the ArcLight, even though it's like $36 for a movie, because of this. When you get there, it's the full movie experience. I don't have to be stressed out about where my seat is. I just know where I'm going. I'm like, it's $9 for a popcorn that's going to give me a stomach ache, but I'm into it. You know, it's a whole great experience. So I tell my friend, hey, I'll meet you. You want to go to this movie? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I'll see you at the ArcLight, and I'll see you there at 9:20 is what he sends the text message to me. And I was like, I'm pretty sure the movie starts at 9:25, but maybe he's one of those sticklers, like you got to get there early and see all the previews or do the trivia beforehand or whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. I didn't want to be like a jerk, so I'm like, cool, I'll see you there at 9:20, you know, like sarcastically, but he didn't know because it's over text. So I get to the ArcLight, and I'm standing there at 9:20. I'm like, bro, where are you? He's like, I'm here. I'm like, cool, I'm at the ticket counter. He's like, I'm at the ticket counter too. I'm like, you're either blind or invisible, but you're not at the ticket counter. And he's like, no, bro, I'm right here. I'm like, dude, it's 9:25. They're going to lock the doors. This is not the AMC, okay? They're not going to let us in late, all right? This is real. I'm going to real movie here. And he's like, bro, I'm right here. He goes, I'm here right now, 9:25 at the ArcLight Sherman Oaks. Is that really even an ArcLight? I don't know. So I was like, okay, I'm at the real ArcLight, so I'm just going to go to the movie. And he texts me back, goes, I'm going to go to the movie too. So we saw the movie the same night, just in different theaters at the same time. It worked out really, really well. But I think that's how God feels about you and me. He coins us, and he creates us with this desperate need for community and for each other, and then sets us in community together. And it doesn't take long for words like I and me to show up in the scriptures. You know the first time you ever showed up in the scriptures is when the serpent was testing Eve. The serpent goes, you will surely not die. You will surely live. You will surely not have what God says happen to you. And you know the first time I shows up in the scriptures? It's when Adam is explaining himself to God. See, God created we and us. We're the ones who screwed up what God intended for us. And so since we don't live in a world where everyone is interconnected and you just feel like this overwhelming sense of peace and love in the world, God had to do like some corrective methods. You ever have to do that with somebody? Where you go, okay, you misunderstood me, so let me clarify myself. So throughout the scriptures, you begin to see that God just goes, hey, here's actually how I intended for you to relate to each other. Since this isn't, since I can't assume that this is true for people to act this way, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you real blatantly and real specifically how to do it. There's a phrase in the scripture, it's called one another. Alalon is the Greek word for one another. That verse is a descriptive verse about how we ought to treat each other and arrives 100 times in the scriptures. There are 59 verses that describe how we ought to treat one another. And I thought, just for the sake of conversation, maybe we could cruise through all 59 tonight. Are you stoked about that? Pull out your Bibles and turn with me to the New Testament, okay? And we'll just cruise through a couple of these. They'll be on the screens behind me, and you can feel free to circle or jot down. I don't know how fast you text, but give it a try. Number 1, be at peace with each other. Number 2, wash one another's feet. Number 3, love one another, love one another, love one another, love one another, love one another. If repetition is any indication of importance, I think that's one to highlight. Be devoted to one another in brotherly love. Honor one another above yourselves. Live in harmony with one another. If you missed the earlier 6, love one another. Stop passing judgment on one another. Accept one another then just as Christ accepted you. Instruct one another. Greet one another with a holy kiss. You can circle that one just for fun. When you come together to eat, wait for each other. Have equal concern for each other. Greet one another with a holy kiss. Greet one another with a holy kiss. If repetition is any indication of importance, serve one another in love. If you keep on biting and devouring each other, you'll be destroyed by each other. Let us not become conceited, provoking and envying each other. Carry each other's burdens. Be patient and bearing one another in love. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other. Speak to one another with psalms and hymns and spiritual songs. Submit to one another out of reverence for Christ. In humility, consider others better than yourselves. And we're not even halfway through. And it seems that God created us this way. And then he goes, oh man, I didn't realize how much I would have to clarify. I didn't realize how important it would be to clarify how important it is to love one another. See, if you make love your aim, you will never be alone a day in your life. Because so many people, they see lists like these. They see characteristics like these, and they start using them for shopping lists of people they're willing to interact with. That if I'm going to have friends, they need to treat me this way, or if I'm going to have friends, they need to communicate with me this way. If I'm going to have people in community, or if I'm going to date somebody, they need to treat me this way. Instead of saying, all these passages are about what you and I take on as a responsibility for the way that we relate to the world, not the other way around. This is not a standard by which we hold the people on our planet. This is the standard by which we hold ourselves for how we relate to one another. See, it's Jesus who said, they will know that you are my disciples by the way you what? Love one another. That love would be a marker that you and I had reflected the image of God. That when you are in community, and let me be really clear, when you're on a team with people, or when you're experiencing like what teams call flow, where you're just like, man, we are just clicking. We have each other's back, we're moving together, and if you have a group of friends, and you just feel like you're in community together, watching each other's back, fulfilling each other's needs, taking care of each other, you are reflecting the image of God. That is no small thing. When you have a friend, let's say you have a best friend, a person where you go, we're just clicking, we're together, we're committed to each other. That is no small thing. You're reflecting the image of God. Do you know how important that is? Every time that you stay committed to another person, that you have a relationship where you love one another, you're reflecting the image of God to the rest of us. It's the same with people who are married. When you see two people who are married, who are committed to one another over year and year after year after year, they show the rest of us what it's like to reflect the image of God. Have you ever seen two people who are in love? And they're like, Twitter-pated. They just like smile at the name of each other's names. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh man. And you're like, oh man. They have no idea what's coming. Do you know what I mean? Like, you're like, I can project this into the future. And then they're like, we're getting married. And you're like, that's so exciting. You have no idea what's coming, you know? And then they get married, and you see people who get married, and they start to realize that thing they loved about that other person starts to get kind of annoying after a little while. And then as it gets a little annoying, then it starts to become the thing you just can't stand. And then you work through it, and then you realize that you got a lot of things they can't stand. And they got to forgive you too, and they got to get over those things too. And so when you see people who've been married for a year or two, and you see that like stressed look on their face, you know. You see people who've been married for 30 or 40 years, I look at them and go, when they can be faithful to each other, forge through any conflict, and stay committed to one another in love over that period of time, they reflect the image of God to the rest of us. I don't know what vision you have for the future of your marriage. I don't know what you imagine with the person you're dating or engaged to. But I hope it's that you look at your boyfriend or your girlfriend or your fiance and say, I want to live in such a way that we reflect the image of God to other people. That in your community and in your friendships, when you love one another, you reflect the image of God outward. People see it. It becomes a real and tangible thing for all of us to experience. But I think sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. The idea that we are to love one another or love the whole world, like, how do you decide? Because there's like a lot of people and I'm busy. You ever feel that way? You're like, how do I love everybody? And so then in your mind you start going, yeah, totally, love everybody. And then you start going, but not him, not her, not her, not her, not her. And you try to figure out like how much do I have to love? And then you kind of feel guilty. And then after a couple of days, you're like, this is too much work. I'm just gonna love, like, I'm gonna play it like an Italian mob. Anyone I'm related to by blood. And then if somebody marries in, then they can come to meals and stuff, but that's it. Like, I'm just gonna keep it tight. And I think that's what happens, is that people get confused about like, am I responsible to? Like, I got to figure out if I want to love each other, love the world, what do I have to do? So I was looking through the scriptures, and I think I found a real clear way for us to know how to relate to people in different concentric circles in your life. So I'm going to draw a grid here. So if you have a pen or paper or Notability or one of those apps or something, this might be helpful to you. The best way to describe it is the first group, I'll just call people you share moments with. And I'm going to put moments in parentheses because maybe it's just a moment. The best passage I know for this is Hebrews 13:2, where it says, do not give up hospitality, because some, without knowing it, have been hospitable to angels. See, I think that's one of the most beautiful ideas, is that all around you and me, we share moments with people, and we have no idea if any of those people are angels. I think it's kind of cool, the idea that in that passage, it's sort of a promise that around you and me, might be people who are spiritual beings, who exist in this world, maybe just for moments to encourage or to live. I don't know, there might even be angels in this room. That in that space, you and I get a chance to actually connect. But moments in this space, this is an important thing, because there are billions of people in the world. Some people that you only see one time, and some people you share a few moments with over the course or a period of time. Another way to describe this would be a terminal. You ever been on an airport and you're sitting next to a person and you're going to LA but they're going to Alaska, and you're like, wow, this is the only time in my lifetime that I'll be sitting next to this person, because I probably won't be in Alaska anytime soon, really, you know? And based on their like hunting gear, they're probably not coming to LA, you know? But you look at this and you kind of go, in a week, share moments with people all the time. You share moments with people who are servers in your restaurant. You share moments with people who are baristas who serve you. You share moments with people maybe here at Mosaic where you meet for a little while. You share moments even with people when you're in college and they're roommates or they're friends, and you're in this intense environment for like 4 years, and then you kind of go your separate ways. And in the future, you'll see each other, but it'll just be moments that you share. See, the important thing here is that we are always hospitable to people we're going to share moments with, and making up the best of every one of those moments. See, have you ever heard that phrase, I'm never going to see him again, so why does it matter? I used to use that as my cop-out for acting like an idiot. Have you ever been there? Where like people are like, oh, I can't go to the grocery store dressed like this. And I'd be like, why does it matter? I'm not going to see anybody that I'm ever going to see again anyways. Or people would be like, I wouldn't do that here in this restaurant because that would be embarrassing. I'm like, why do I care? I'm never going to see any of these people again anyways, you know? And then I started to realize that doesn't alleviate me a responsibility. It puts responsibility on my life. Because if I only have a moment with different people, it matters who I reflect and how I reflect God to those people. That if you only have a few moments, even with people, and I have dear friends that I only get to share moments with over the course of my life. People I was really close to in high school that now I get to see once or twice a year. And my goal isn't to just be an idiot for those windows of time. My goal is that I can reflect God over coffee, over tea, over a meal, in whatever short moments that we're entrusted with. That you and I ought to remember the names of every person who serves us food. We ought to jot down notes or whatever we have to do to remember conversations we have from person to person in our life to just share moments with people. So that in those moments we could love one another and let the image of God shine through us in the way that we relate to that person with love. You up for that? So those are people you share moments with. The second one is people that you are on mission with. This would be best described by Galatians 6:2. In Galatians 6:2 it says, bear one another's burdens and thus you fulfill the law of Christ. Bear one another's burdens. Now, it's really important. When you read the scriptures, especially when you read the letters that Paul wrote, he's assuming intention in your life. He's not assuming that you're like trying to decide what you want to do with your life. He's assuming you're on mission, you're moving forward to fill every corner and space in this city and in your life with love. He's just assuming that you're moving forward with an incredible sense of intention. So when he says bear one another's burdens, he's saying for those of you who are moving together, and someone trips and falls and has too heavy a weight to carry, take the backpack off them, you carry it until they can catch up and carry their own weight. That we carry weight for each other because we're on mission together. I had somebody mention that this is kind of like people you work with. Maybe not. Because people you work with may not actually reflect the mission of your life. That the clearer you are about the intention and mission of your life, the clearer you will be about the people in your life that you share that mission with. See, I think a lot of times people move through the earth, move through the world, and they only share moments with people. But until you can discover and until you can be really clear about the intention and mission of your life, you won't carry those relationships of people that you feel like are bands of brothers, bands of sisters, where you go, we're going to the same place together, and we get to get close together as we're trying to find the same destination. See, until you can be clear about the mission of your life, it's going to be really hard for you to discover those people. And some people said, well, these are people I work with. Sometimes you work that job just because you want money. And I hate to break it to you, but the people you work with, their mission is not to get you money. Their mission may be something else, maybe to get them money. That's not missional at all. What I mean by mission is actually here in this room. What I mean by mission is people that you serve others with others. What I mean by mission is a space where you go, hey, I might do this for money, or I might do this for work, or I might do this because it's a dream of mine, but I do this because it's the mission of my life. And here at Mosaic, I meet people all the time that come here and serve others with others, and then they like marry each other. They become best friends for life. They actually become so committed, maybe they are here serving together, and then they go off and start companies together because they're committed to a mission together, and so they build these relationships. See, there are different categories of people in your life. Ones you share moments with and ones you share a mission with. The next category would be, I'm just going to call it meaning. Meaning is like, and I hesitate to use that word only because I don't want to communicate that somehow the people you share moments with, that's not meaningful. And I don't want to communicate that people you're on mission with, that's not meaningful either. I mean that these are people that actually, when you love them and they love you, you're actually bringing meaning to each other's lives. My daughter Cora, at 9 months old tomorrow, loving her brings meaning to my life. I don't even know if she loves me back yet. It doesn't matter. Loving her brings meaning to my life. I love Sue-Ann in a way that brings meaning to her life. Sue-Ann and I love each other. This is my family. These are people in my life. These are people in your life you're willing to give a kidney to. You're willing to lay your life down for. That you go, these are people that I no matter where I travel, no matter what mission I'm on or moments I'm a part of, these are people I go, they're in my space. I was mentioning to Sue Ann this morning, this circles, and I'm like, yeah, there's like the moment circle and the mission circle and the meaning circle, people you give a kidney to. She goes, would you give your kidney to me? I'm like, of course. She's like, oh, well, you should. And I was like, so that was a fun breakfast. But this is John 15:13. That greater love has no man, the greater love knows nothing but this, that a man would lay down his life for his friend. That when you lay down your life for other people, this is an intensity in relationship that you might only find a few times in your life. This is an intensity of relationship that is really important that you are selective here. It's really important that as you choose people for this, you're really clear about the relationships that you have in your life and how committed you are to each other. Have you ever heard that phrase, whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger? Isn't that stupid? It's so dumb because it's just so not true. It's like whatever doesn't kill us makes us stronger. Sometimes whatever doesn't kill us maims us for life, okay? that just, if that was true, then everyone in the world would be like strong and of good faith and of good courage. That's just, I don't know about you, but I look around in this city and I see a lot of broken people. I see a lot of people who have gone through a lot of things and it didn't kill them. It gave them a belief about people that just isn't true. It didn't kill them, but it helped them come to an agreement in their mind that they couldn't ever trust anyone. It didn't kill them, but they lost faith in God or faith in other people or faith in humanity. You ever meet somebody who was abused? And anyone ever say, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger? If you're in the room, you ought to punch that person. Not really, obviously. Don't tell people that I told you to do that, and then that's going to be like a whole thing. But I want to be really clear that people who sometimes start here with people, and then they're on mission with people, and they bring them into meetings. If you've ever been betrayed in life, if you've ever been just shocked by people's lack of loyalty, a lot of times you'll start to think, okay, cool, I'm just going to keep everybody into this circle. But I want to be really clear. People will always disappoint you. There are going to be people in your life that you love and trust who are going to let you down. Because when Jesus said these words, that greater love has no one than this, than the man who would lay down his life for his friends, he's sitting amongst a group of people, and one of the men at the end of the table is going to betray him and cost him his life. And he still lays down his life and washes the feet of a man who would betray him. Judas. See, for you and me, I think we try to figure out how we could build our walls so thick that we could keep people out of that space where they could actually hurt us. And in reality, we ought to flip it around and go, people are going to hurt us. It's not our job to try to sort those people out or screen those people. Our job is to look at it and go, I'm just going to have the posture of I'm going to love people no matter how hurt I get, no matter how wounded I get. I'm just going to be wise about the relationships that I have here. See, and I sometimes, in looking at this and even in relationships, I don't know about you, but I pick people. I just pick people. I don't wait to be like chosen as a person's friend. I just go, okay, I'm going to be this person's friend. Tough. He's not going to get rid of me because I have his phone number. You know what I mean? Like, it's too late, man. And I got people in New York and people in Toronto and people around the world that I just go, I'm just going to choose to be an encouragement to this person. And for some of those people, they probably get text messages from me and go, yeah, this guy, he texts me like every 2 weeks saying he's praying for me and stuff. What a weirdo. But my thought is, I don't think he has any other weirdos who pray for him or let him know. So I go, I'm okay being that weirdo. I pick people and I go, I'm just going to choose to be a person that I'm just going to be on mission with that person. I choose people and I go, I'm just going to be a person that I'm going to be committed to them because I'm looking around and going, everyone else is committed to that person because of what they bring to the world, and I'm just going to be committed to them. I have people in my life that are so swarmed with attention because of what they do or of how important they are, and I just go, I don't even watch your show, so I don't care. I'm just going to be committed to you as a person. I'm just going to be committed to your life. I'm just going to hopefully bring meaning into your space or create moments for you that you know you matter. See, I think it's really important as we begin to look at our lives to know where people sit in our world and in your world and mine. It's really important to know who you're sharing moments with, because what happens is, and I'm going to give you a little dirt on church. You ready for this? I always love doing that. I'm going to give you a little dirt on church. Christianity as a whole creates these things called small groups, and then they assume that this is going to happen right away. Or people come to a community, to a church, and they go, man, I'm just having a hard time finding my people, without realizing that actually the invitation into community groups, like at Mosaic, the invitation to community groups, the invitation into community is actually to share moments with people. And then if you go, I'm sharing moments with people, and I like this vibe here. I like the culture here. Then you go, okay, I'm going to be on mission with these people. I'm going to pick up some of the weight, and I'm going to walk with these people and begin to serve others with others and have relationships. And then every so often in life, you find people who you can actually pull into that inner circle, and loving each other at that intensity brings meaning to each other's lives. So when you go to a community group at Mosaic, and I hope you all at some point go to a community group at Mosaic, they're not going to start with, okay, so who in the circle are you ready to lay your life down for? That just isn't going to be the opening question. And if for some reason you go to a community group and it is, you let me know, okay? And we'll take care of that. But they're probably going to start asking questions about how you can share moments in the lives of other people, because it will make your life more beautiful when you share beautiful moments of love, even with strangers, even with people who are part of your life. And does anybody here watch Sons of Anarchy? Yeah, okay, all right. I don't recommend that you watch it, okay? Because somehow that's on like network television. I don't know how that made it onto network television because of the inappropriateness factor. So I just want you to put this in the category of like the not recommended television viewing. It's about a motorcycle gang that is basically organized crime. And it's these group of guys that wear these vests, and then they get tattoos on their back. And if you like leave the group, if you leave the crew, if you mess with it, they burn that tattoo off your back with a torch. It's like nasty stuff. But you know what's crazy about it? The amount of intensity and the depth of loyalty and relationship they have actually messes with me a little bit. Because I look at it and go, you know, as I was growing up, I never had like a tribe. I had my family, and then I was like on a search for the rest of the world, trying to figure out, where do I fit? Where do I belong? I could have been plucked up by one of those groups so fast. I probably would have done anything wrong to feel that kind of relationship, even if it was like the wrong thing, because my soul was so desperate for that. And then I would have gotten to a place in my life and gone, wait, this is not healthy for anyone. All of the people we love are getting killed. Season 2, okay. It's a little nuts. But I think I could have been swept into that. See, what I want is I want to make sure that there's not an organized crime group or a gang in the world that is more committed to each other than the people who say they follow Jesus. See, what I want is I don't want a single person on this planet to walk through life and go, I just couldn't ever find a tribe that I belong to. I want the people who belong to Jesus to say, you come this way, we'll take care of you, you can belong to us. We'll create moments with you and show you how to love. See, I want to make sure that the people who follow Jesus are the most committed and loyal and faithful group of people in the world. That our mission is to bring faith and hope and love to the city of Los Angeles and let that be breathed around the world. I want to make sure that no TV show or mythology has more commitment to one another or more commitment to community and fellowship than the community of the people who follow Jesus. Are you down for that? Yeah? Because I want you to know, just like I pick people, Jesus picked you. If you're here tonight and you are in a moment of your life where you doubt that, you're in a moment of your life where you've never heard that before in your life. You're in a search and a journey in your life and you're just not sure exactly where God fits or where Jesus fits in the world, I want you to hear really clearly in this moment so that you could know that it was told to you, that someone told you that Jesus picked you, that Jesus gave his life for you. He laid down his life for you, and there's not a relationship in this world. There is not a tribe in this world. There is not a community in this world that will bring as much meaning into your soul and into your life as when you bring God into your soul. There is not a person you could connect to that will bring as much meaning into your life than Jesus Christ. That when you allow Jesus to connect to your life, when you give Jesus all access to your life, when you surrender your life to Jesus, he will bring meaning into every relationship that you have. That you have the ability and the capacity to make moments with people that are extraordinary and reflect the image of God. It doesn't matter how screwed up you are or how you feel like I've made mistakes. I'm just not who I ought to be. When Jesus steps into your life, he comes through a process of redeeming the image of God in your soul. He didn't come just to bring us to himself. He came so that he could bring us to each other, so that we could reflect God's image just by the way that we're in community together. So if you know people who are on a search, you be really, really clear. Jesus picked them. I want you to know right here in this room, Jesus picked you. And that when you invite Jesus into the core and center of your life, there's not a place you can go. There is not a place dark enough that God does not see you. So if you're in this room right now and you have that echoing, deafening sense of loneliness, I want you to know that Jesus meant for you to be in this room tonight so that you could hear those words that he picked you, that he wants you to be in community with people so that in your life you will never be alone, that you will always be connected to him, and that when you connect to his community, you begin to be on mission with people, serving others with others, and that you find those people that when you bring them into your life and into your soul, it actually brings meaning into their life and into yours. My hope and prayer for us is that we would be the people who would create moments with people around this city that would reflect God, and it would be undeniable for people. That they would go, there's this group of people, and when you see them move, when you see them talk, when you see them act, there's just God all over these people. That people would watch your dating relationship, and they would go, that just reflects the image of who God is. When they watch your marriage, and they watch your friendships, when they watch the way you serve and the way you relate to each other, it just reflects who God is. That people without God would feel that calling inside them going, I want what that person has. Because when you connect to Jesus, he brings meaning to your soul. He redeems this image and allows us to connect to each other and be interdependent with each other. Are you down for that? Yeah, let's say the prayer together. God, I thank you that you are Elohim, that you are God in three persons, that your spirit can fill a room right here, that you, God, your voice created light and darkness, and your son Jesus stepped into human history, laid his life down for you, me and us and we, and you picked us. God, I pray for the person in this room right now that has that heavy burden of solitude on their shoulders, who walked in here with that heavy weight of feeling alone. I pray that you would release that from their shoulders right here in this room, that you would step into their souls in such a powerful way that they would sense your presence deep inside them. God, I pray for the people here, for those of us who feel like we're on mission and we're connected to our band of brothers. We have our club, our crew of people to bring hope and love to this city. I pray that right now in this room, you would bring to mind the people that you want us to email, to phone call, to text message, to reach out to, that you would bring to mind right now those people who are not here right now, whose loneliness has caused them to be segregated. I pray that right now you would make us agents of moments for people in this city, that you would give us eyes to see people's faces, to see people who are forgotten or overlooked, that you would give us the ability to remember names and give us the ability in just brief windows of times with people that we love to create a moment where we reflect you, where we reflect love. I thank you for this room. I thank you for the mission that we're on. And I pray right now, just an overwhelming blessing on every person in this room, that you would bless our workplaces, our missions, that you would bless our moments in our life and in our city with every single person, and that when people see us in this city, they see you. I pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.